before Mayweather-McGregor happened, I told you, Adi Attar told you, John Kavanaugh told you, along the way, that the plan was always, no one ever said, we might not come back, we have to consider it. No, they always kind of said unequivocally that he would come back. And that the plan, once he did come back, was to fight Nate Diaz. That is, without a doubt, regardless of weight class, regardless of belt, any scenario out there, that is the biggest fight that the UFC can make right now. Because of who Conor is, and of course because of who Nate Diaz is. Now, fans may say, oh, you know, Nate Diaz doesn't deserve a title shot. Again, in this day and age, like, we're not playing by the same rules. That's the biggest fight that the UFC can make. And that's the fight that they had sort of earmarked, penciled in for December 30th, if they could get all their ducks in a row, if they can get the stars to align. That's the fight that everyone wants, but the stars need to align here, and they have not aligned. There is no deal. You can rest assured that Nate's going to try to, you know, get the most amount of money possible. You can rest assured that even though Conor has 4 fights left on his UFC contract, he's in a much different tax bracket now than he was when he signed that deal prior to UFC 194 against Jose Aldo. If I'm them, I wait until the Tony Ferguson-Kevin Lee fight happens. I don't think that the winner of that fight gets Conor, but, you know, crazier things have happened along the way. Dana White went on Twitter, I believe. I can't read it myself, of course, because sadly I'm still blocked, but I did see, you know, the screen grabs and the reports and all that saying that it's not true. Sometimes he doesn't tell the truth. This time he is, in fact, telling the truth. That fight is not done. As of right this second, there is no deal in place for Conor McGregor to fight Nate Diaz on December 30th or any other date for that matter. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get it done and it happens December 30th, or if it happens in early, 2018, first quarter of 2018, maybe Super Bowl weekend, some card like that. Again, as I just said, that's the biggest money fight. That's the fight that can make the UFC the most amount of money. That's a fight, given Conor's popularity and Nate's popularity, that's a fight that makes around, I don't know, it generates around like 2 million pay-per-view buys, I think, at this point. I think that's I would set the line at 1.5 easy, if not higher. Maybe even 1.7, 1.8. Any fight that Conor is in right now does over 1 million. But because of that rivalry, because that fight seems to have transcended the MMA bubble and gone into the regular sports world, like every time anyone talks about Conor, they just reference the Nate Diaz fights, like right off the top. They reference the submission by Diaz. They reference 202, the win in 5 rounds, the decision win for Conor McGregor. So that's the biggest fight. There's no question about that.
I think he's just such an act. It's just so hard to stomach. Just so I like cry. I don't know. I just like, oh, guy with the outfit. He's like a pootie tang. I was his first fight in the UFC, and I remember him. I saw him backstage, and you can see like what he's all about. He's not. I don't know. He's just like so fake, and he's just trying so hard. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of other people that should have got a title shot. He had a good interview. You know, he was just in a good time. He was in the right place at the right time. He won the fight. Ferguson happened to be, doing the Fox thing.
Yeah.
And they had a little back and forth.
Congratulations to your fight, but you're calling out Khabib. You're just like Al Quinta. I can't understand anything that you say. All you're saying is just a whole bunch of hoopla.
Yeah, but I'm fighting.
You need to get in line. You need to get in line, son.
Al ain't fought in 2 years.
You need to bleed a little bit. You need to go through guys like Edson Barbosa, Rafael Dos Anjos, man. You're just barely breaking into this
you're talking to somebody with more.
All you're doing is this, man.
You're talking to somebody with more fights in the same amount of time as you.
Especially elbows and knees and kicks.
Oh, I gotta fight somebody like Lando. I gotta fight somebody that's coming off the UFC debut. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
I will eat you up for lunch, but that's not the case because you don't meet my standards on this. You have to put in your time, kid.
We can do it. It'll be easy money.
Oh, easy money for sure. Yeah.
I think Kevin Lee's not. I don't think he's there. I think Ferguson's way ahead of him.
I'm gonna look at my actual screen right now. So you guys go ahead and ask me 2 questions. I'm gonna pick 2 random ones. All right? Ready, set, shoot. What you got? One thing is Khabib is fat. I was at 201 pounds. I cut like almost 30, 40 pounds, like 2 times in one camp. I got much respect for Khabib, but his fighters and everybody else trying to do stuff for him, I'm like, dude, you guys need to get off the fucking Kool-Aid, man. You guys need to win some fights yourself. Do something with your fucking life. Get off social media and fucking get in the gym. That's all I'm trying to say.
Does happen. Let's say it's Conor versus Nate. That's going to be for the title. Now, those guys want to fight over a grudge. However, because Conor's champion, that becomes a title match. So now you have to balance that against the ratings, or rankings rather, where I believe Nate sits number 7. In the meanwhile, we will have an interim champion at that weight because Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson are getting ready to fight for that belt. I've always been a supporter of the interim title, but I've been a supporter because I thought I understood it. One of the things is if you have an interim champion, his next fight is against the current champion, and they kind of belt versus belt, and we all move forward. If we get away from that, Dwayne, if we've got an interim champion, the winner of Kevin Lee versus Tony Ferguson, but then the next championship fight isn't with them, it's with, in this case, it'll be Nate. It could be anybody, but in this case, it'd be Nate. I start to get confused why we're having the interim title.
Keith, John and I are always talking about it, and probably every show that I do, a major point of discussion is who is the greatest of all time. And obviously, we know what happened with John Jones and all that stuff. But for your money, or everything that you've seen so far, who is the greatest of all time when it comes to the UFC?
I mean, I have to go with McGregor. I really do. I mean, he's one of the only people who has I think, was he holding the belt, at 2 weight classes at the same time? That may be up for argument, but that's absolutely incredible. I know Jake did it. It was at different times, but this guy did it, all virtually at the same time. He went up to 170, was able to, do pretty well in that weight class as well. He's over there going into boxing. It's pretty amazing what this guy has done. Could you have imagined anyone doing the things that he has done, 5, 6, 7 years ago? That's the question that basically I ask myself, and I just can't think of anyone who's done the things that he's done.
So you're basing that on the fact that he beat someone like Aldo, the fact that he had two belts in the UFC simultaneously, all that. Do you think that is more than what George St. Pierre has done for his consistency over his career?
I do. When we're talking about pound for pound, I do. I think, in his weight class, I think that George St. Pierre, not only has he been so darn consistent, similar to Anderson Silva, but when we're talking about different weight classes that they've gone, I think that McGregor has outdone him when it comes to that. We'll have to wait and see, right?
He's going to fight Bisping. He's going to fight Bisping.
Yep,
now, if he goes out and beats Bisping, do you think GSP surpasses Conor or not?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was just about to bring that up. He's going to fight Bisping right now. If he's able to come off of that layoff and beat Bisping, absolutely. He is pound for pound the greatest fighter of all time. That absolutely solidifies him as such.
I know Keith is banging on me and Kenny every time we try to trot out John Jones, and it's interesting when you talk about Conor McGregor because it's not the most obvious case. It's hard to quantify what Conor has done because obviously he is the only simultaneous 2-division UFC champion, but he has 0 title defenses, right? So compared to someone like Demetrius Johnson, it's like it almost puts the conversation to an end, right? How do you even compare those? One guy defended his title 10 times, one has 0. But again, you make a pretty compelling case for Conor. But I just think for me, it's hard to quantify Conor's all-time status until we get a couple more years into it.
What are your thoughts of the UFC Lightweight Division right now as we speak?
I think it's a little bit lost. It seems like a little with the interim belt and the guys who are fighting for the interim belt. It just seems a little bit like they're throwing shit at the wall and hope it sticks. But that's where we are. I mean, the champion's not fighting, so these are the things you have to do while you wait. We're just trying to make a matchup here. In the meantime, me versus Justin Gaethje will be the biggest matchup in the lightweight division, like the most exciting, and guys who bring it will be the, even before this interim belt, who are, these guys who are fighting. Me and Justin will be the biggest fight in the division in the next couple months until the champion comes back and defends the belt.
A guy turned to us who we were with, who's not a huge, I don't think he watches that much boxing or MMA, and he was like, these guys are good. I mean, I think both these guys would give McGregor problems as long as they can stay away from McGregor's power in his left hand. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? Like, and I think he's probably pretty representative of like the casual fan.
Because Conor's become so much bigger than just an individual sport that people see him as, he's just like the ultimate fighter. They don't think about him as a mixed martial artist as opposed to a boxer. Conor McGregor to them is just the ultimate fight person.
Hey, what's up, guys? Be sure to catch me tomorrow night and Samia, the host for Padlock.com. Be sure to tune in 8:30, 9:30 tomorrow night. Sign up, Padlock.com.
Swipe up to sign up.
Yes.
Thank you.